her relationship with NBA player Malik Beasley. And for those who are watching, we had a real throwback episode where we talked about this when it initially started. He played on the same team as her son, Scottie Pippen Jr. She admitted her relationship with Malik was a mistake and blames it on COVID brain. She said, that was a mistake, but I had COVID brain. I was stuck in my house. I hadn't gone anywhere. He was there and he was on me like, let me come see you. And I thought, okay, come see me. So, Mase, have you ever had COVID brain? And then what did you think of her thought process?
Pause on the COVID brain. That sounds crazy. I don't know what is COVID brain. You've been in the house too long, so you.
He explains it as when you just start doing things.
Cam, you answer that.
She was giving COVID brain. That's what she was doing. So, that's exactly what she was doing. So why you fuck with Michael Jordan's son? Why you keep going around just scouting basketball players for years, man? And, Scottie Pippen's your baby father. To me, it's more embarrassing as a mother. Your son is in the NBA, and you was actually on the team. He was on the team with a player that you was fucking. It's embarrassing, as a mother. And then these comments it just goes to show you're not that bright. Even if you do. Even if, just say it. Look, my thing is this, right?
It is embarrassing. I'll go with that statement.
You don't gotta agree. I know you can't agree with all the shit publicly I do, mother. She doesn't appear to be that bright to say that. It doesn't. I'm not talking about a nigga mother. I'm talking about somebody who says this.
No, but it is embarrassing if it's like coming to your job and having sex with niggas at your job.
Exactly. And it's your mother. It's like this, like B. Niggas listening to Sukiyana and all them and thinking it's all good to be living this lifestyle. Sometimes you're a little too old for that. I think the music plays a part into it too.
I think so too.
Because these bitches you know what it is? I don't got bitches no more like that. I'm talking about, I had bitches. Bitch gotta be 62 right now. Gotta be at least 62, 63. Cause I was bold enough when I was 20 and she was 37. I'm 49 now, so I'm sitting there thinking about the age, and it's like, she be sending me these truck videos and shit, and I be like, yo, I think I'm
twerking at 62.
I got a video. You know I keep the files, nigga. And it be like, yo, when you was younger in the 90s and the internet, it's all internet, it's like, it was frowned upon to be a hoe.
Yeah.
And they were secret hoes or they couldn't be the hoes that they wanted, and now it's not cool to, I'm using the word hoe, but that's not what they would use. Influencer.
That's different, but I see where you're going.
Twerker, this is the words they use nowadays.
Model.
Yeah, IG model. These are the new words. Pardon me if I'm still using the 90s whole words. Y'all are influencers now, and everything else y'all doing.
And Instagram models.
And Instagram models. So they seeing this and they like, yo, man, me and my girls could have turned up like this in 92. And now they feel like they miss out on it. And now, to be totally honest with you, older women are looking better than they look when they, so let's say, for instance, a 45-year-old woman today looks better than a 45-year-old woman in 94 because of nutrition. We're learning how to take care of bodies. We're learning how to get better sleep. And the doctors. You gotta get the doctors in there. Let's not forget about the doctor in Miami cutting your rib, yank your rib out, getting the hair removed from your lips and all type of shit. You're looking better. You know what I'm saying? So now they like, yo, I could twerk 62. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of females, Larsa Pippen and them, don't even,
You always say Larissa, but it's okay.
It's Laura.
Larsa.
I don't really care. That's why. I've been mad when I might mispronounce Mike Tomlin or something.
That's fine.
Scottie Pippen, baby mother. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
People like that don't even realize they're doing anything wrong dating your son's teammate or dating Michael Jordan's son, your baby father's teammate's son that you watch grow up.
Yeah.
And now you blame it on COVID brain. What I will do is this. I'll give her this. COVID was rough, man. You had to pick somebody and stay with them. I had 2 during COVID. And I'll give you COVID brain. I won't pause. I won't say that's what I had, but I was like, damn, I'm stuck with this after about 3 weeks. Because you can't risk it. People are dying. People's dying. Can't just be sleeping with everybody during the COVID, man. So if you chose him during the COVID, that was your choice. I get it, but that was your choice. We all had choices to make.
Yeah, just think about if it was the other way around, right? Let's say it was a ladies basketball team and the dad came in there and he was smashing his daughter's friend on the team.
Right.
How would the ladies look at that stat?
100% correct. I like
it's
that.
crazy all the way around.
No, but it would be crazier.
I can't even
It would be crazier if you had a younger daughter, she's on the team, but then her friend like you, she thinks you're good to go.
Yeah, you would be all type of suckers.
Yeah.
Pause. Word.
Pedophiles, all that.
Yeah, 100% correct. How old is she? You know what I'm saying? Shit crazy, man.
It is crazy, and that is that. I don't know. That was her reasoning. COVID brain. That's that.
You know
COVID
what?
brain is just AKA I still got it.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, it's you know why? It's the lack of awareness. To say you lost your hoism, like Dre, like yo,
Yeah.
nah, I think the wholeness wears off after like 7 years, so I'm not a hoe anymore. And you might not be a hoe no more, and I'm not talking about Dre specifically, but to make the comment is like, it isn't the chicken pie. It isn't like you go take a pill and you get rid of the hoism. You know, when you say the comment, sometimes it's be like, yo, this is what we got good. This is what we got to look forward to. Next generation, man, or society or whatever. It's bad. Last thing before we leave.
Why didn't you jump in for her? You normally protect the women.
Yeah, man.
What am I protecting?
Yeah.
What am I'm not a stand for that.
I sent you Hoga.
I'm literally not a stand for that. That's her.
Let me ask you one thing off the topic real quick. Because I know we got to wrap. I was watching the P. Diddy trial. Some nigga named The Punisher came in there yesterday. Was he running around Bad Boy back in the days, murder? A nigga named The Punisher. Who was The Punisher? Was he security back in Who's The Punisher? The male prostitute.
Yeah, I never met him.
I ain't know if that was somebody changing their identity up. Nigga Bentley or one of them niggas say you ain't Mr. Bentley no more, you The Punisher. I ain't mean to be
that was wild.
Yeah.
That was super wild.
Yeah.
I guess this is what V said. You don't really know niggas.
Yeah, you don't know niggas.
Really know niggas.
Ooh, child. Well, y'all, that is all the time that we have for today.
The more you know.
No, literally. Perfect segue. Thank y'all for watching. And as always, it is what it is.
What unfolded between Mase and Cam wasn't really centered on a single relationship. It exposed a much bigger generational divide that keeps resurfacing whenever an older celebrity's private life becomes headline material. This time, Larsa Pippen found herself right in the middle of that debate, and trust me, the reaction went far beyond gossip. Here's the situation boiled down to the facts. Larsa previously dated Malik Beasley, an NBA player who happened to share a team with her son, Scottie Pippen Jr. When questions about that relationship came back into the spotlight, she repeated the explanation she's been given for quite some time. She admitted it was a mistake and pointed to the isolation of the pandemic as a major reason behind her decision. According to her, being stuck at home with limited social interaction, combined with someone consistently pursuing her, led to a choice she now openly regrets. That's the foundation of the discussion the hosts were responding to. Everything after that was interpretation, not fresh information. And that's an important distinction because the opinions that followed are where the conversation really takes an unexpected turn. It's worth asking why this particular clip grabbed so much attention, because on the surface, it seems like a minor moment that could have easily come and gone. One co-host revisits an old story, throws out a familiar phrase, and suddenly everyone has something to say. But what really keeps people watching is that it touches a nerve many viewers have quietly struggled to process themselves. Seeing a parent's personal relationships overlap with a child's professional career creates an uncomfortable feeling that's difficult to ignore. That awkwardness doesn't require a scandal to exist. It naturally appears whenever a family's private decisions become intertwined with public careers under the spotlight. And that's exactly why reactions to this segment were so divided. Some people saw it as criticism, others viewed it as self-reflection, while many treated it as a broader conversation about culture that had already moved beyond the original relationship. Mase opened the discussion with a dose of skepticism that almost felt theatrical. COVID brain isn't an official diagnosis. It's not a medically recognized condition. Instead, it's become a phrase some people use after the fact to explain choices they no longer feel comfortable defending. Mase approached it from that exact angle, questioning the label instead of accepting it, because to him, it sounded more like a convenient explanation created later than a genuine reason that existed in the moment. That doubt immediately shaped the tone of everything that followed. Cam didn't waste any time easing into his opinion. He focused directly on the optics. And honestly, once you lay out the circumstances, the optics are undeniably uncomfortable. Larsa's son plays in the NBA. The relationship involved one of his own teammates. To Cam, that wasn't simply an awkward coincidence. He viewed it as a completely different kind of embarrassment than a typical age gap relationship or an ordinary breakup that people eventually forget about. He wasn't arguing that two consenting adults can't date. His point was that proximity changes everything. Context matters, and a parent's dating decisions can spill over into a child's professional life in ways that are almost impossible to erase once the internet gets involved. Versions of this conversation happen all the time inside locker rooms, front offices, and sports media, even when they have nothing to do with this specific family. Professional athletes operate inside incredibly close-knit environments. Teammates often become like extended family. Organizations value locker room chemistry just as much as talent, because trust can
impact winning as much as statistics do. Anything that creates unnecessary tension inside that environment, even something as personal as a parent's dating life, has the potential to complicate relationships that are supposed to be built entirely on trust and teamwork. Cam's frustration wasn't really rooted in abstract morality. It was about the practical reality of showing up to work every day, knowing your teammates are aware of an uncomfortable situation involving your family. That's the deeper message underneath his reaction, even if he never directly spelled it out that way. Then the discussion shifted in the same way as many public debates eventually do. It stopped being about one specific relationship and became a larger conversation about how celebrities explain the choices they've made throughout their lives. Cam expanded the topic by pointing toward celebrity culture as a whole, mentioning artists whose music and public image have long celebrated certain lifestyles, while suggesting that fans sometimes carry those messages much further into adulthood than they were ever intended to go. Whether people agree with that perspective or not, it's an argument that's constantly repeated whenever pop culture is analyzed. Influence doesn't simply disappear with age, and behavior that once looked exciting and aspirational in someone's 20s can land very differently once that same person is raising children who are building careers of their own. That's also where the conversation connects with a much broader debate happening throughout entertainment today. Should public figures really be judged by the exact same standards at 50 that they were judged by at 25? Society rarely provides a smooth transition for that change. Someone can spend years building a public identity around confidence, independence, and living without apologies, only to discover that those same choices are viewed completely differently once their audience includes their own children, their children's peers, and an internet that has become far more relentless than it was when that image was first created. Cam's point about music wasn't really directed at one specific artist. It was a broader observation about how cultural messages evolve over time, and how lifestyles that once seemed glamorous can take on a completely different meaning once real-world consequences begin catching up. Mase's personal story is where the conversation quietly changes direction, and honestly, that's where the segment becomes the most interesting. He doesn't place himself above criticism. Instead, he openly admits that when he was younger, he had been in a relationship with someone significantly older, using that experience to explore why situations like this make people uncomfortable in the first place. His conclusion comes down to perspective and the passage of time, arguing that when you move the calendar forward, a relationship that once seemed acceptable decades ago can appear completely different through today's lens, and that's where the real conversation begins. One of the strongest points Mase makes is brutally simple. Society's standards don't stay frozen, they change with every generation. What's surprising is that in the middle of criticizing someone else, he turns the spotlight on himself, and you don't see that very often. Most panel discussions move in one direction, with everyone dissecting the subject while never examining their own past. Mase flips that formula completely, revisiting his own experiences and realizing how differently those same decisions look decades later. That level of self-awareness adds far more depth to the conversation than non-stop criticism ever could. Suddenly, the focus shifts from "look at her mistakes" to "what happens when you honestly evaluate choices like these, including your own." It's a subtle shift, but you won't believe how much it changes the entire tone of the discussion. Instead of becoming another celebrity takedown, the segment evolves into something much bigger, a reflection on how time,
Age and perspective can completely transform the way identical decisions are judged, and that's where the conversation really becomes interesting. It naturally leads into one of the most meaningful topics the hosts tackle. They begin discussing how attitudes toward dating, relationships, and sexual freedom have changed dramatically since the 1990s. Mase's point isn't aimed at one individual, it targets the culture that has grown around social media. He argues that behaviors once viewed as controversial or kept private have now been completely rebranded. Things people used to hide are now openly promoted. Today's platforms reward visibility, and visibility rewards personalities built around confidence, attention, and public openness about personal relationships. His argument isn't that the behavior itself suddenly appeared. He's saying the incentive to broadcast it is what's truly new, and even the language surrounding it has been softened into something easier to market, monetize, and turn into a personal brand. Labels that once carried harsh judgment have been replaced with titles that feel far more acceptable, and with those new labels comes a level of social approval that simply didn't exist when similar behavior would have been criticized instead of celebrated. That's one of the most fascinating observations buried inside what initially sounds like casual banter, because it highlights how social platforms quietly reshape behavior over time. Attention has become one of the most valuable currencies online in ways that didn't exist before social media rewarded constant exposure. A younger generation watched that transformation happen in real time and learned something older generations never experienced. Instead of hiding your personal life, today's culture often encourages people to build an entire career around sharing it. Mase even hints that there's another layer beneath all of this. He suggests some people who grew up before this era of online influence look at today's environment and feel like they missed opportunities that simply weren't available during their own youth. That's less about judging anyone and more about recognizing how quickly society rewrote the rules surrounding attention and public acceptance. Those changes happened so fast that people who lived through both eras can still feel the culture shock today. Cam picks up that conversation and pushes it in a completely different direction by talking about how appearance and self-maintenance have changed the public perception of aging. And honestly, this may be one of the most thought-provoking points in the entire segment. His argument is that someone in their 40s today often looks dramatically different than someone in that same age group did 30 years ago. He credits that shift to better nutrition, improved understanding of health and recovery, along with cosmetic procedures becoming far more common over time. He's incredibly specific too, mentioning surgeries and treatments that used to be reserved for a small group of celebrities, but have become much more accessible over time. His point isn't focused on criticizing anyone's appearance. Instead, he's arguing that the visual signals people once relied on to estimate age and judge what behavior seemed appropriate no longer work the way they used to. Once those traditional markers become blurred, the old assumptions built around them begin falling apart as well. People keep applying outdated expectations to a world that no longer fits those same rules. That's why this observation deserves more attention than it usually gets, because it reflects a very real cultural shift. The beauty, wellness, and cosmetic industries have expanded enormously over the last 2 decades, giving far more people access to procedures, treatments, and expert care that once seemed exclusive to wealthy celebrities. That evolution changes how people perceive age at first glance, and with it comes a change in how quickly society judges someone's choices. When the old shortcuts stop being reliable, people
Either update their thinking, or they continue relying on outdated assumptions anyway. And that's exactly where much of the tension in conversations like this comes from. Cam isn't using this point to justify anyone's actions. He's highlighting that the entire framework people use to judge age-appropriate behavior was built around visual cues that aren't nearly as reliable anymore, leaving even confident people questioning where the line should actually be. Then the conversation reaches its sharpest moment with a hypothetical that completely flips the narrative. Cam asks everyone to imagine the exact same situation, but with the genders reversed. What if it were a father pursuing a relationship with his daughter's teammate? Mase doesn't hesitate for a second, and both hosts immediately agree the public reaction would almost certainly be much harsher, with many people labeling it predatory before any real discussion even took place. That perceived double standard becomes the emotional core of the entire exchange, whether they openly frame it that way or not. The real debate isn't simply about age gap relationships, it's about why the exact same circumstances often receive completely different reactions depending on whether it's the mother or the father involved. Neither host pretends that inconsistency doesn't exist. If anything, acknowledging it directly is what gives the segment its edge, because it's easy to judge one celebrity's situation, but much harder to confront the reality that identical behavior is often evaluated through entirely different standards based on gender alone. What makes that hypothetical hit so hard is how it removes every unnecessary distraction and leaves only the core issue behind. Strip away the names, the headlines, and the personalities, and you're left with one simple scenario: an older parent, a younger peer of their child, and a romantic relationship between them. When Mase answered immediately, without hesitation or second guessing, it revealed something important. His instant reaction showed that both hosts already knew exactly where they believed the line would be if the genders were reversed. There was no uncertainty in that version of the story. The hesitation only appears when discussing what actually happened, and that's the biggest clue that the public and even the hosts themselves may be applying different standards depending on who's involved. That contrast between their instant certainty in the hypothetical and their lighter, joke-filled discussion of the real situation says more than any punchline ever could. It's also important to recognize what the hosts never claimed during the conversation, because that completely changes how the segment should be understood. They didn't present hidden evidence or pretend they uncovered new information. The pandemic explanation, the timeline involving Malik Beasley, and the connection to Scottie Pippen Jr.'s team were all public knowledge. Everything layered on top of those facts, the jokes about age, the comparisons to dating culture in the 90s, and the discussion about cosmetic enhancements was clearly commentary, not fresh reporting. That distinction matters because it's easy for viewers to leave a clip like this believing some major revelation happened, when in reality it didn't. Shows like this aren't built around investigative journalism. Their value comes from honest reactions, bold opinions, and saying what many viewers are already thinking before taking the conversation somewhere deeper than the obvious joke. Instead of trying to expose new facts, the hosts used an already public story as a springboard to explore much larger questions. They discussed why society often judges men and women differently for making similar choices. They questioned how language changes over time, turning once stigmatized behavior into something easier to market and normalize. And they challenged viewers to consider whether they actually apply the same standards consistently across every situation, or only when it's convenient. That's where the conversation
quietly becomes much bigger than Larsa Pippen herself. Even the sudden reference to the Sean Diddy Combs trial near the end wasn't as random as it first seemed. Bringing up the courtroom witness known mostly by a nickname and watching Mase momentarily struggle to remember exactly who it was acted almost like a pressure release after a much heavier discussion. It reminded everyone that despite touching on serious cultural topics, this is still a show built around spontaneous reactions, quick humor, and unfiltered conversation. That sudden shift from serious debate to playful confusion isn't a flaw in the format. It's part of what gives the show its identity. If the conversation stayed serious from beginning to end, it would risk sounding like a lecture instead of an authentic exchange. So that change in tone isn't really a distraction. It's what allows deeper conversations to happen naturally. That's one reason clips like this continue spreading online. The hosts aren't delivering a carefully scripted thesis. They're thinking out loud, changing direction, disagreeing with themselves, softening hard opinions with humor, and then, unexpectedly, circling back to something meaningful. That unpredictability is exactly what keeps viewers watching, because the discussion feels real rather than rehearsed. If you step back from the individual names and jokes, the entire segment revolves around two ideas that can both be true at the same time. On one hand, consenting adults have the right to make their own relationship choices, and a celebrity's dating history doesn't automatically deserve renewed attention years later simply because it becomes relevant again. On the other hand, context matters. When someone's personal relationships overlap with their child's professional environment, people naturally see the situation differently. The hosts never pretend those two ideas are easy to reconcile. Instead, they examine the issue from multiple angles, draw from personal experiences, expand into broader cultural discussions about social media and changing norms, and eventually land on a gender reversal hypothetical that exposes how inconsistent public reactions can actually be. What's refreshing is that neither host forces the conversation into a neat conclusion. They leave the tension unresolved, and ironically, that's what makes the discussion feel more authentic than performative. Beneath all the jokes and playful exchanges is a simple realization. People rarely apply the same standards equally. That's the real takeaway, not whether one particular relationship was right or wrong. It's also why debates like this never disappear after the headlines fade. People aren't only arguing about what one celebrity did, they're really debating where their own personal boundaries are and whether those boundaries quietly change depending on who they're judging. Most people probably don't realize those inconsistencies until someone flips the scenario around. That's exactly what happened here. Whether it's a celebrity relationship, a coworker's personal life, or even decisions from our own past, people are usually much quicker to judge someone else than themselves. Cam may have stumbled onto that realization almost by accident, all during a conversation that originally started with a joke about a phrase almost nobody considers a legitimate medical diagnosis. And honestly, that's where this segment becomes much more interesting than it first appears. At its core, this was never just another discussion about Larsa Pippen's dating history. It became a mirror reflecting how inconsistent public judgment can be. A conversation that began with COVID brain unexpectedly evolved into a much broader debate about gender-based double standards, changing relationship norms across generations, and how modern beauty standards and lifestyle changes have blurred the visual signals people once relied on when deciding what seems socially acceptable. The hosts never arrive at one perfect answer, because there probably isn't one. Instead, they land on gender reversal questions that force both hosts to admit when they're somewhat unsure and not completely sure of anything.
Somewhere far more honest. Hidden beneath all the laughs is an admission that the standards people claim to believe in aren't always applied equally. Simply recognizing that inconsistency may be more valuable than pretending it doesn't exist. And that's ultimately why this discussion works beyond its entertainment value. It gives viewers a rare glimpse into how an off-the-cuff conversation can unexpectedly reveal something much deeper than either host likely intended when the cameras started rolling. Nobody tuned in expecting a debate about gender bias, generational shifts in dating culture, or how advances in wellness and cosmetic procedures have changed the way society interprets age. Yet that's exactly where the conversation ended up, because authentic, unscripted dialogue often uncovers truths no scripted discussion could. The jokes opened the door, the disagreements kept the momentum alive, and somewhere along the way, almost without realizing it, the hosts exposed something that resonates far beyond this one story. That public judgment is rarely as consistent as people claim, and the reaction often depends less on the action itself than on who happened to make it. That's the real message the segment leaves behind, even if nobody says it directly before it ends. Once the laughter fades and the clip starts circulating on its own, that's the argument people are left debating, and perhaps that's why the conversation continues long after the original headlines have disappeared.